Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. While we're waiting for Maharaj to show up, Vijay Krishna Prabhu, would you kindly be able to lead us in an opening kirtan?
Yes, Ekendra Prabhu. Just a second.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome, Prabhu. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajakacharya Astotar Satashri Srimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath, Shamakunda, Radha Kunda, Giri Govardhan ki jai, Shri Vrindavan Dham ki jai, Shri Navadvip Dham ki jai, Ganga Mai ki jai, Jamuna Mai ki jai, Bhakti Devi ki jai, Tulsi Devi ki jai, Samaveta Bhaktivinoda ki jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna, and welcome everyone for Srimad Bhagavatam class with His Holiness Jayadvaita Swami and friends. I just sent Maharaj a note since I didn't see him in our participants list. And I know he's been traveling a lot, so I'll be happy if he's able to join us today. And thank you, Vijay Krishna and Prabhu, so much for the kirtan. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. It is Friday, February 21st, 2025 in New York, and tonight we're starting with Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th canto, 11th chapter, and I have us starting with text number 18, and someone please correct me if that's wrong, but that's where I have us starting. Hare Krishna. Or encourage me if I'm right.
You're right, Prabhu.
Thank you so much, Prabhu, and thank you, Praveen Krishna Prabhu, for posting the number of the verse in the chat. So I'll read our text number 18, and I went back over some of the previous verses since, for various reasons, I haven't been able to attend in person for a little while, and I'm very grateful to Vijay Krishna Prabhu for hosting. So I had some thoughts to share just on the context of what's happening with Dhruva Maharaj and Swayambhuva Manu. But first we'll read text 18. Sakal vidang bhagavan kala shaktya guna pravahena vibhakta virya karotya vikartaiva nihantya karotya kartaiva nihantya hanta cheshta vibhumna kalu durvibhavya. This is Swayambhuva Manu speaking. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, by His inconceivable supreme energy, time, causes the interaction of the three modes of material nature, and thus varieties of energy become manifest. It appears that He is acting, but He is not the actor. He is killing, but He is not the killer. Thus it is understood that only by His inconceivable power is everything happening. The word durvibhavya means inconceivable by our tiny brain, and vibhakta virya means divided in varieties of potencies. This is the right explanation of the display of creative energies in the material world. We can better understand the mercy of God by an example. A government state is always supposed to be merciful, but sometimes, in order to keep law and order, the government employs its police force, and thus punishment is meted out to the rebellious citizens. Similarly, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is always merciful and full of transcendental qualities, but certain individual souls have forgotten their relationship with Krishna and have endeavored to lord it over material nature. As a result of their endeavor, they are involved in varieties of material interaction. It is incorrect to argue, however, that because energy issues from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, He is the actor. In the previous verse, the word nimitta matram indicates that the Supreme Lord is completely aloof from the action and reaction of this material world. How is everything being done? The word inconceivable has been used. It is not within the power of one's small brain to comprehend. Unless one accepts the inconceivable power and energy of the Lord, one cannot make any progress. The forces which act are certainly set up by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but he is always aloof from their action and reaction. The varieties of energies produced by the interaction of material nature produce the varieties of species of life and their resultant happiness and unhappiness. How the Lord acts is nicely explained in the Vishnu Purana. Fire is situated in one place, while the heat and light produced by the fire act in many different ways. Another example given is that the electric powerhouse is situated in one place, but by its energies, many different types of machinery move. The production is never identical with the original source of the energy, but the original source of energy, being the prime factor, is simultaneously one with and different from the product. Therefore, Lord Chaitanya's philosophy, Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva, is the perfect way of understanding. In this material world, the Lord incarnates in three forms, as Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, by which he takes charge of the three modes of material nature. By his incarnation of Brahma, he creates. As the incarnation of Vishnu, he maintains. And by his incarnation of Shiva, he also annihilates. But the original source of Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, Garbhodakashayi Vishnu, is always apart from these actions and reactions of material nature. Om Jnana Timirantasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalang Shri Gurun Vaishnavams Cha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitangscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshvari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanshakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Eva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So, as I said, there have been a number of classes where I wasn't able to attend in person or even have time to listen to the classes after they were recorded. So I just wanted to, for my own benefit, and with the blessings and indulgence of the devotees, just go back over a little bit of the context that brings us up to this point, because in essence here, Swayambhuva Manu is trying to break up a fight that he thinks should stop. And as we've seen in the present day, sometimes a person trying to break up a fight also gets involved in the conflict. But Manu knows what he's doing, and he's trying to detach Dhruva from the yakshas, and at the same time, as we see, draw his attention towards Krishna. One of the previous verses read, "The Lord is very satisfied with his devotee when the devotee greets other people with tolerance, mercy, friendship, and equality." You can imagine that one in the heat of intense battle may not be so willing to cool down so quickly and listen to reason. But Manu has faith in his relative, Dhruva Maharaj, and considers him worth instructing, as we've heard from Maharaj. But generally, the tendency in the material world is, krodhat bhavati samohat smriti vibhramaha, that once you get going down that road of anger, it becomes uncontrollable, it transforms into ignorance, and then you just forget everything. You forget who you are. You just like, you're propelled by the force of anger itself. Lust goes to anger, it goes to ignorance, goes to forgetfulness, and then you forget everything. So Manu's trying to stop, put a spoke in that downward spiral by stopping Dhruva before he gets to the point of smriti vibhramaha, bring him back from the brink, one might say. And these speeches of Manu also remind me a little bit of what's happening in the Bhagavad Gita, although it's a slightly different situation, because here Manu is stopping Dhruva from his engagement with the Yakshas, and one might wonder, well, what are the Yakshas doing meanwhile? If he's telling Dhruva to cease and desist, one might expect, especially considering this state of present day warfare, that the Yakshas would really take advantage of that and kill Dhruva right away. If he's telling Dhruva to stop fighting, well, that means that we can start and we can win. But fortunately, this is a different age somehow, and things weren't so degraded or like that. But in the instance of Krishna telling Arjuna, he's also giving some fairly lengthy instructions. But in that case, the war hadn't started. Here, they're in the heat of battle, and Manu's trying to cool him down. And in this verse, coming back up to the present, Prabhupada is making the distinction, Manu is making the distinction between Krishna, the source of the energy, and the energies themselves, which he's trying to impress upon Dhruva, trying to bring his intelligence back to a cooler and more elevated state of awareness, that this is all being done by Krishna's inconceivable energy. Krishna sets things up by his energies, and his energies, as Om Purnam Adaha Purnam Idam, as Ishopanishad explains, Krishna's energies are complete within themselves, so they can carry out the action of Krishna's desire without Krishna having to personally get his hands dirty or even roll up his sleeves. They just act according to his will. Everything is so perfectly arranged by the Lord that his energies take care of everything he wants to have happen. So everything that's going on, either in a battle situation or your average run-of-the-mill daily situation, these are all the interactions of the modes, which are Krishna's energies, with the desires of the living entities, which are also Krishna's energies, spurred on and pushed forward by the actions of time, another one of Krishna's energies. So this whole machine is going on, in one sense, independent of Krishna, because Krishna doesn't have to be directly engaged in doing anything. Just by his will, his energies can work on his behalf perfectly according to his will. I found it interesting in the purport here that Prabhupada is quoting Vishnu Purana, trying to explain this difference, the important difference between the energies and the energetic source of the energy. And one of the analogies used there, which he uses a lot, is of the electricity and the powerhouse that produces the energy. Now, it doesn't say that he's directly quoting the Vishnu Purana in that instance, but I thought, wouldn't it be interesting if there was something about electric powerhouses in one of the Puranas? That's simply speculation on my part, but it would be interesting. Hare Krishna. There's something here so far in the chat from Saraswati Mata. She says, Hare Krishna, pranams to all. I'm reminded of what President Lincoln said. Sir, my concern is not whether God is on our side. My greatest concern is to be on God's side, for God is always right. Thank you for that. Hare Krishna. It's not often that we hear from President Lincoln here in the chat window. for the Srimad Bhagavatam class. But it's nice to give him some pious credit there. Vijay Krishna Prabhu says, in the presence of the inconceivable power of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, what should we, his parts and parcels, do? Challenge it or surrender to it? Please, thank you, and Hare Krishna. Well, the easy answer to that is we just follow Krishna's advice. He doesn't say, Sarva Dharman, challenge me. He says, Sarva Dharman Parityaja. Forget about it. I'm bigger than you. You won't win. The smart thing to do is surrender. So yeah, seems pretty straightforward. Unless there's something else that you're trying to get at through your question, that seems fairly straightforward. What is your thought on that, Prabhu?
No thought, because the answer you just gave me is a very intelligent answer. So I'm fully satisfied. Thank you very much.
It reminds me of when Krishna went to the brink of the ocean to recover the son of his teacher, who had been playing on the seashore and was last seen there, and apparently went into the ocean. And Krishna, without too much preamble, said to the ocean, "Consider my reigning supreme. You had better return the son of my teacher," if I'm getting the pastime correct. And so in a similar way, he's telling everyone, consider my reigning supreme. The smart thing to do would be to surrender, especially considering how perfectly Krishna's energies are working and how vast Krishna's energies are. There's no point in trying to challenge, but if you're determined to challenge, Krishna will give you the arguments with which to challenge and even make you stupid enough that you think you can challenge. It's always, I find it humorous anyway, when you look at the Bhagavatam and you see these people who are, I'll get you, Krishna, you'll pay for the death of this and that person. I will send you to the abode of Yamaraj. You can only be assured that Krishna is putting such dialogue in their mouth for our entertainment. Hare Krishna.
And Prabhu, if I may, at the very beginning of Bhagavad Gita, Arjun did challenge Krishna with his arguments to substantiate why he was not wanting to fight. And because of that challenging, Krishna chanted the Bhagavad Gita. And finally, what happened? Arjun surrendered, fought a battle, and enthroned his brother Yudhishthir Maharaj, the pious emperor of the whole world. Thank you very much.
Good point. Thank you very much. And another point from the purport here that I appreciated was how, Prabhupada says, how is everything being done? The word inconceivable has been used. It is not within the power of one's small brain to comprehend. Unless one accepts the inconceivable power and energy of the Lord, one cannot make any progress. And this might be seen by some people who are empowered to be challengers of Krishna's authority, that you pull out the inconceivable card when you can't explain something. It's like, oh, how can we understand? How can we understand? Well, we can understand up to a certain point. And then you have to say, logically speaking, just logically speaking, it is impossible if we're talking about an unlimited being of unimaginable power and scope of knowledge and influence. And we ourselves, if we're at all honest, have to look at our own scope of understanding, our own little world, our own little sphere of influence, our own little bodies and minds, and say, are we inconceivably and omniscient and omnipresent, omnipotent, anything? No. So then only logically it makes sense that unless one accepts the inconceivable power and energy of the Lord, one cannot make any progress. So it's not just we can't understand. There are those who pull out the inconceivable card when they really can't conceive of anything. But fortunately, we have a lot of information in the form of Vedic literature to substantiate a lot of what we do know. We're not completely in the dark and just saying everything is inconceivable. And Prabhin Krishna Prabhu says, Ekadesha Stitasyagner. Yes, Jyotsnya Vistarini. Hold on a second. Jyotsnya Vistarini Yata Parasya Brahmana Shaktis Tatedam Akilang Jagat. Fire is situated in one place, but it distributes heat and light. Similarly, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, it is distributing his energies in various ways. That's what Prabhupada is quoting in this purport from the Vishnu Purana. Yes. Yeah, so he quotes that from the Vishnu Purana, and then he goes on to say another example given. He doesn't say where it's given. Maybe he's just giving it, is about the electric powerhouse situated in one place, but by its energies, all the other machinery move. Hare Krishna. Any other comments or questions here? Oh, I could read if, yeah, why not? I could read. There's some, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has quite quite a bit of commentary on this verse. The translation rendered by Bhanu Swami of this verse here is the Lord acting as the jivas. Let me make sure I'm on the right number. Yes, the Lord acting as the jivas entering into Maya, separated from himself by the agitation of gunas through time, acts and does not act. He kills and does not kill. The actions of the Lord are inconceivable. And in his commentary, he brings up, as he sometimes does, a counter argument, and then deals with that counter argument. So the counter argument here he has in quotes. If that is so, in other words, the Lord's actions are inconceivable, he kills, does not kill, etc. If that is so, then creation, maintenance, and destruction should occur simultaneously. Let's see how he arrives at that argument by reading the rebuttal, which reads thus: no, there is sequential agitation of the gunas by the time energy. It is not simultaneous. The Lord, as the Jiva Shakti entering into Maya Shakti, separated from the Lord, vibhakta, the word in the verse today, by agitation of the gunas, through the time energy, step by step, acts. The Lord is the material cause, upadana karana, and the indirect cause, nimitta karana, since he is non-different from his energies of the gunas, time, and the jiva. He is the non-doer, since these items are not the Lord's svarup. Thus he kills and is not the killer. Why does he create the universe? Why does he not continually create the universe and not have destruction? He puts in parentheses. Why does he make inequality in the universe? To dismiss such questions, it is said that he is inconceivable, since he is the powerful Lord, Vibhumnaha. This universe is a manifestation of his power. So the recurring theme here seems to be that if you want to understand Krishna, you have to be able to accept from the outset that you're not going to be able to fully understand him. The staunch materialist, because he's so used to using his limited mental power, limited power of sensory observation to try to explain everything in the universe, thinks that God or even the soul or even anything beyond matter is something that ought to be explainable through the processes I'm used to using, namely the extending the power of the senses through various instruments, telescopes, microscopes, whatever, or using your own vast power of speculation. But when we're talking about spirit, especially the supreme spirit, it's a different ballgame. And to be able to understand it, you have to accept it's a different ballgame. You can't just play with the same rules that you use for other things. It's like trying to understand sound by looking through a microscope. You're doing the wrong thing. Your approach is wrong. You have to be guided by those who understand what the approach is. So you have to have a little humility to start with, to learn anything, of course. But yeah, and Prabhupada finishes the purport here. Lord Chaitanya's philosophy, Achintya Beda Beda Tattva, is the perfect way of understanding. Hare Krishna. Anything else? Oh, Maharaj is here. Jai Maharaj, Hare Krishna. So glad you could be with us. Jai.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Apologies for being late.
Oh, we're happy to see you. Murai Gupta Prabhu has a point in the chat. He says, those who don't like to hear that Krishna has inconceivable potencies can't even understand a tiny cell, time, gravity, the origin of life and the laws of nature, consciousness, and so many other aspects of our world. So how will they ever understand Krishna? It looks like it's being placed as a rhetorical question, so we can simply say yes. Maharaj, I wasn't aware of when you showed up or how much of we're reading text 18 and the purport, and I wasn't sure whether you would like to say something more. Certainly, we'd love to hear from you if you do.
I think I arrived too late to say anything on this one. Just been here for a couple moments.
Okay. Jai, so happy to see you. Thank you. All right, so then we can move on to text 19. Radhesha Prabhu, are you able to read, or are you operating some heavy equipment or similar such thing?
No heavy equipment. Are we on 19?
We are now on 19.
All right. So nantonta karakalo nadiradi kridavyeha janam janena janayan marayan mrityunantakam. My dear Dhruva, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is ever existing, but in the form of time, he is the killer of everything. He has no beginning, although he is the beginning of everything, nor is he ever exhaustible, although everything is exhausted in due course of time. The living entities are created through the agency of the Father and killed through the agency of death. But he is perpetually free of birth and death. The supreme authority and inconceivable power of the Supreme Personality of Godhead can be minutely studied from this verse. He is always unlimited. That means that he has no creation or end. He is, however, death in the form of time, as described in Bhagavad Gita. Krishna says, I am death. I take away everything at the end of life. Eternal time is also without beginning, but it is the creator of all creatures. The example is given of touchstone, which creates many valuable stones and jewels, but does not decrease in power. Similarly, creation occurs many times, everything is maintained, and after a time, everything is annihilated. But the original creator, the Supreme Lord, remains untouched and undiminished in power. The secondary creation is made by Brahma, but Brahma is created by the Supreme Godhead. Lord Shiva annihilates the whole creation, but at the end, he is also annihilated by Vishnu. Lord Vishnu remains. In the Vedic hymns, it is stated that in the beginning there is only Vishnu, and that he alone remains at the end. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Gurudasa Jayadvaita Swami Nithe Namin. Vasudeva Vaidam Agra Asin Na Brahma Nacha Shankaraha. In the beginning there's only Vasudeva, or here being stated Vishnu. No Shankara and no Brahma. No Shiva and no Brahma. It was interesting, this line, but at the end, he is also annihilated by Vishnu. I don't know that I remember seeing that stated anywhere else, that Lord Shiva is also annihilated by Vishnu. But the point stands that Lord Vishnu is supreme, and he He was there before everything, and after everything is annihilated, he remains. I just thought I'd pause here to see if there's any comments before we continue reading. Long purport. All right, we'll continue. An example can help us to understand the inconceivable potency of the Supreme Lord. In one recent history of warfare, the Supreme Personality of Godhead created a Hitler, and before that, a Napoleon Bonaparte, and they each killed many living entities in war. But in the end, Bonaparte and Hitler were also killed. People are still very much interested in writing and reading books about Hitler and Bonaparte, and how they killed so many people in war. Year after year, many books are published for public reading regarding Hitler's killing thousands of Jews in confinement. But no one is researching who killed Hitler and who created such a gigantic killer of human beings. The devotees of the Lord are not much interested in the study of the flickering history of the world. They are interested only in Him, who is the original creator, maintainer, and annihilator. That is the purpose of the Krishna consciousness movement. One small comment. I was actually thinking about all of the investment of our time in so many, especially with technology. We think that we've become very advanced, and there's so many ways of expressing ourselves through the mediums of whatever it is, social media or so many advancements in technology. And I was thinking that all these big creators, they're all forgotten about. I thought about like some cave drawings. You can think that at the time that these were made, someone was honored as, oh, this person's art on the walls of these caves was particularly splendid. But now nobody cares. And similarly, nobody's going to care about any of the advancements that we made now. It's all so much useless nonsense. But the purpose of the Christian consciousness movement is to discuss and hear about the original creator, maintainer, and annihilator. All these other great killers, as Srila Prabhupada stated, Napoleon Bonaparte and Hitler, who cares? They just killed a few thousand. Krishna is killing unlimited. Again and again, all the living entities are annihilated. So we should be interested in what is this ultimate killer of all living entities, and how do we become free from death? How do we become free from disease? Guru Maharaj, any thoughts?
Nothing to add at this point.
Okay, searching the chat to see if maybe we missed something here. So far not. Let me look and see what we have in the way of commentary from Srila Vishwanath. Slightly different rendering of the verse. He says, as time, he is without destruction, but causes destruction. And he is without birth, but causes birth. He is inexhaustible. He produces people by means of people, and destroys even Yama by Kalagni Rudra. Hare Krishna. And his commentary, see his other powers. He is without destruction, Ananta, but he is the destruction of others in the form of time. He is without birth, Anadihi, but he causes the birth of others. He is inexhaustible like the Chintamani, supplying everything without decrease. As the cause of birth, he produces children by fathers, Janena. As the destroyer, he destroys even Yama by Kalagni Rudra. I'm not familiar with this term Kalagni Rudra, but the way that he's presenting this here reminds me of some of the Upanishads, the way they very enigmatically hint at what Krishna is, what he's not. Supposed to draw your own conclusions. Anything on Srila Vishwanath Maharaj?
Well, Kalagni is literally the fire of time. We hear that at the time of destruction, great fires are produced. I assume Rudra's involved in that. It's wonderful, of course, how oh my goodness. Anyway, how the opposites are set up in this verse. Someone will remind me of the right word to use. Anyway, opposites. Ananta, Antakara. He has no end, but he puts an end to everything. Anantakara. Kalanadi, Adikrit. He has no beginning, but he's the beginning of everything. Then Janam Janena, Janayan. He causes living entities by living entities. But Marian Rituna Antakam. He's the cause of all living entities, and he kills all the living entities. So this is Krishna with his contradictions or his opposite nature. There's a word I want to use, and it's gone. It'll appear later. There was a joke I heard, by the way, for those concerned with Janma Mrityu, Jara Vyadhi. I forget who told me, but he said that Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, I'm the source of remembrance. What is that? Ratasmitra Gyanam. I'm the source of knowledge, remembrance, and I forget. So this is Jara.
I also sense that there's a word that you're looking for. We've had some suggestions, but I don't think they quite address contradictions you mentioned. Antonym.
No.
Something there. It'll come.
Yeah. Probably at 5:01.
Murari Gupta Prabhu says, the big time killers in history often survive multiple assassination attempts. It seems that demons are protected too, so they can do what's needed. Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
Saraswati Mata says, I have a friend who is a psychologist and an expert profiler. She exclaimed with disappointment that Krishna is beyond her psychoanalysis. Indeed.
Must have an unusual friend. Most psychologists, that doesn't stop them. That they can't understand them. Something doesn't stop them at all. But certainly, even if they think they can understand Krishna, they can't.
All right. So my desire here is to search endlessly for the exact word that you're thinking of, Maharaj, because it's on the tip of my brain as well. But we should move on with
you know the word I mean, right?
Yes, but I don't know it at the same time. Let's see here. Reading text number 20.
Kendra Prabhu?
Yes, Vijay Krishna Prabhu.
I did post a question.
Oh, sorry, I missed that. Sorry. Let's see. Let's go back here. Yes, sorry, we missed that. Vijay Krishna Prabhu says, and this is a question, how can the Srimad Bhagavatam declare that Krishna is perpetually free of birth and death? Krishna did take birth because of his devotees Devaki and Vasudev, didn't he?
I think that's a question anyone in the conference could answer.
Well, taking the role of one on the conference, one initial thought would be that these are pastimes. He's not forced to do anything, whereas we are. And of course, Krishna doesn't take birth. He himself says that in the Bhagavad Gita. He only appears to. It's a whole different mechanism for appearing in the world when you can come whenever you want, come and go as you please. The living entities are under very, very stringent laws. They have no choice in the matter at all. Whereas Krishna has free choice to do anything, anywhere, at any time, always. So, yes, Krishna is perpetually free of birth and death because all these things are under his control, whereas we're under the control of these things. I'm sure others could say much more on the subject than I. And we wonder, Saraswati Mata says, are you thinking of the word oxymoron as the word?
Definitely not.
Yeah. And Ras Prabhu says, Hare Krishna, who can know the psychology of Krishna fully? Anybody? That may be another rhetorical question. I'm not sure.
Swayam Atmatmanatmanam Veta Tvam Purushottama. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, only you know yourself by your own self. Swayam Atmanatmanam Veta Tvam Purushottama.
Hare Krishna. We are at 7:48 Eastern Time. It appears, Mars, that you may not have with you a kirtan outfit. Is that correct?
Yeah, I didn't bring the orchestra today.
Okay. We have a point in the chat. Saraswati Mata says, Krishna also doesn't know his own sweetness, so he came as Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. All right, Krishna. So, Panchatattva Prabhu says, a desperate try, but counterparts. Maharaj says, nope. I'm sure we'll think of it as soon as we pause for the evening. So let's see. We have some time. Perhaps the next verse is within our capability. I was going to see whether Priti Purnamadavi Devi would like to chant our text 20.
Yes, Prabhuji. न वै स्वपक्षो अस्य विपक्ष एव वा परस्य मृत्युर्विशता समं प्रजाः तं धावमानम् अनुधावन्ति अनीशा यथा रजांसि अनिलं भूतसङ्गः. Translation. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, in his feature of eternal time, is present in the material world and is neutral towards everyone. No one is his ally and no one is his enemy. Within the jurisdiction of the time element, everyone enjoys or suffers the result of his own karma or fruitive activities. As when the wind blows, small particles of dust fly in the air, so according to one's particular karma, one suffers or enjoys material life. Purport. Although the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the original cause of all causes, he is not responsible for anyone's material sufferings or enjoyment. There is no such partiality on the part of the Supreme Lord. The less intelligent accuse the Supreme Lord of being partial and claim that this is why one enjoys in this material world and another suffers. But this verse specifically says that there is no such partiality on the part of the Supreme Lord. Living entities, however, are never independent. As soon as they declare their independence of the Supreme Controller, They are immediately put into this material world to try their luck freely as far as possible. When the material world is created for such misguided living entities, they create their own karma, fruitive activities, and take advantage of the time element, and thereby they create their own fortune or misfortune. Everyone is created, everyone is maintained, and everyone is ultimately killed. As far as these three things are concerned, the Lord is equal to everyone. It is according to one's karma that one suffers and enjoys. The living entity's higher or lower position, his suffering and enjoying are due to his own karma. The exact word used in this connection is anisha, which means dependent on their own karma. The example is given that the government gives everyone the facilities for governmental action and management, but by one's own choice, one creates a situation which obliges him to exist under the different types of consciousness. The example given in this verse is that when the wind blows, particles of dust float in the air. Gradually, lightning occurs and then torrents of rain follow, and thus the rainy season creates a situation of varieties in the forest. God is very kind. He gives everyone an equal chance, but by the resultant actions of one's own karma, one suffers or enjoys this material world. So, this verse is sharing about what Krishna also teaches in Bhagavad Gita, that no one is his friend, no one is his enemy, he's equal to everyone. But he's especially inclined towards his loving devotees. But if we are not practicing devotional service, the act we do, it leads to us suffering or enjoyment, because of which we are entangled in the cycle of birth and death. Because wh- that's why the word karma bandhan, mm, karma bandhan comes, because also in Bhagavad Gita it is mentioned that there are three types of and three ways in which we act: akarma, karma, and vikarma. So, akarma is only the way which can lead us from the bondage of the cycle of birth and death, because it does not lead to any pious or any sinful uh, reaction, for because of which we have to suffer or enjoy and take birth, to enjoy that to enjoy those pious activities or to suffer those sinful reactions. So here, Swami Manu is sharing that uh, no one, we cannot blame anyone for the reaction that we suffer, because Krishna is impartial. He's not in anyone's enemy, not anyone's ally. It is our karma which is making us suffer or enjoy the result. So we cannot blame anybody. So the unnecessary killing of yakshas to retaliate is not justified. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Maharaj, would you care to say something?
There's a sutra, Vedanta Sutra, Vaishamya Nargrinye Nasapekshvatvat. Nasapekshvatvat, the absolute truth is not partial to anyone. So that's a big theme throughout in the Bhagavad Gita. Samoham sarvabhuteshu non dveshosti not priya. Now, I'm not partial to anyone. The example is given of the ground or the forest, where the rain distributes itself equally but some trees come out as neem and some come out as mango. Some will be sweet and some will be bitter. And that's not the rain's fault. It's on account of the seeds, ultimately, of the two different kinds of trees. So the fortunes of the living entities is a consequence of their own desires and their own activities. And then they blame the personality of Godhead for the difficulties in which they find themselves. It's all God's fault. But that doesn't cut it. We hear that in the prisons, the prisoners typically blame the government. It's the government's fault that I'm here. What was it, Al Capone? All I did was try to give the people of Chicago a good time, which meant liquor, prostitution, every kind of racket. But he was put in prison for no fault of his own. All he did was try to give the people of Chicago a good time. So the living entities are very expert in rationalizing their own failures, really, and blaming them on Krishna. But that's their foolishness. And yes, I think Radhe should solve the verbal issue. Dichotomies was probably the word I was looking for. Opposites that offset one another. Hare Krishna.
I was expecting Ross Prabhu to pick it up, but I'll go for it since time is short. Saraswati Mata has the last word in the chat today. She says, conditional souls have the propensity to place the blame squarely on someone else when their choices bring about dire consequences. This reminds me of a show I used to watch as a child, Laurel and Hardy, where Hardy would always blame Laurel and say, here's another nice mess you've got us into, after he himself had led them into the mess. We just have a problem accepting accountability and responsibility. Hare Krishna. I was going to ask, unless Maharaj has any other comments on that, whether Krishna Kanteya Prabhu could lead us in our closing kirtan today.
Yeah, I think better than commenting on Laurel and Hardy, we should let Krishna Kanteya lead the kirtan.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna. Hare Hare. Hare Rama. Hare Rama. Rama Rama. Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Nitai Gaur, Haribo, 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 Nitai Gaur, Haribo, 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 Gaur Haribo, Nitai Gaur Premanande, Hari Haribo. Maham Vishnu Buddhaya Krishna Vistaya Bhutale Srimati Jayadvaita Swami Iti Namine Maham Vishnu Buddhaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paskacha Deshatarane Jai Sri Guru Anguranga Jai Prabhupada Ki Jai. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Krishna Kanteya Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
In context, I would say that's another fine kirtan you've gotten us into. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, everyone, for being here. Especially thank you, Maharaj. Glad you could make it. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Holiness Jayadvaita Swami Maharaj ki.
Jai.
Samaveta Bhakta Ki Jai.
Jai.
Gaur Premanande.
Haribo,
Hari Hari Bol.
Haribo. Krishna, Krishna. Haribo, Guru Maharaj Ki Jai. Hare